are Locked On Hornets, your daily Charlotte Hornets podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome in this
island. That's it. So that had to grow the beard.
All right, holding down the left block, he covers the Hornets for ESPN Charlotte, the one, the only, Justin Thomas.
Yeah, guys, I don't have any facial hair. I've tried.
Mine's probably not really getting picked up, so I wouldn't worry about it.
Yeah, facial.
Okay, well.
Oh, there we go.
All right, we finally, you can see the reactions. We finally have it. The producer cam is up, and we have our guy, Captain Kurt. He's taking us to Soundtown. Look at this. Oh, yeah, behind the
working
scenes.
Hard.
Behind the scenes action here on Locked On Hornets Live.
Captain Courageous!
We've got a great show ahead. Nick Denning, a writer from atthehive.com, will join us shortly. We'll update you on Kemba Walker's All-Star chances. We've got an All-Star game, All-Star weekend PhD. So Dr. Walker will talk to us about Kemba Walker. And the NBA is never lacking in drama. We're going to go around the association in our own special way. You want to stay tuned and make sure to comment on YouTube. And if you're listening to this after the fact, make sure to join us next week, 6 o'clock p.m., live here on YouTube, youtube.com/Locked On Hornets. But make sure to chat with us. And Jacob's already on the chat line saying, are we going to be discussing Kemba's walkers? Oh, yeah, we're going to be discussing Kemba. Will he walk into the All-Star game? That's what we're going to be
Jacob's
discussing.
loyal. That's what I'm talking about, Jacob. Get in early, man.
I love it.
Thank you.
All right, well, with that, we launch. Here we go. Oh, wow, that didn't play at all. All right, well, this is all right, a little technical difficulty, but that's okay. This is the step back three things that we've seen this past week in Hornets action. Could be something we liked, could be something we didn't like. David, what you got? You're first up.
Well, I loved this, and I did, Doug, if you know what I mean. This comes from probably everyone's play that wasn't from the week that was. Marco Bellinelli trying to sneak in a three-pointer with just 0.5 seconds left.
Yeah, there it is.
Just
right
not
there.
quite enough time.
Well, so there were two schools of thought on this play. Well, one was Marco was being creative, taking a chance here, trying something new.
Well, he had to get it in too, right? I mean, that's one thing.
Ew. But the other school of thought is, well, maybe, he should have recognized time and situation, that he didn't have time to make that play, should not have made that play, should have given Kemba Walker a chance to knock down this shot. What say you, Justin?
I actually changed mine for this for your segment.
No, what do you know? Before you get to what do you think about the Marco shot? I want to know what your thoughts are on the Marco shot.
Portion.
And to talk about this, I mean, I guess we can have a little positivity. Give him an A for effort.
Okay.
A round of applause. He thought that was nice. It didn't count. But knowing the Hornets and the games that they've let slip away.
Wait a second now. Hey, guys. Hey.
To be better. So,
you have to be.
know.
Yeah, no, well,
I don't think there's any excuse for that.
No, I mean, I just liked it because it was unbelievable, right? I mean,
it
how
was
often
nice,
do you
though.
see
It
that?
was
It
nice.
bounced right to him.
Mm-hmm.
He shot it up. He banks in the three. Would have won the game. I mean, that was insane. That was crazy. I mean, my reaction was much like yours, much like Steve Clifford's after the game. They asked him about it all excitedly and said, yeah, just not enough time to make that play. So,
he was hot.
Classic Clifford fashion,
He was
right?
hot.
All right, Justin, I'm going to pull your audio up here. So while I do that, let me go to my play, my step back three, and then we'll thoughts here. So this was just a play I really liked. Out of a guy who's struggled a little bit this season, but Roy Hibbert. We'll get to it eventually here, I think. Here we go. Roy backing his guy down, little fake, and then here it comes, the dream shake. Oh my God, Roy Hibbert hitting the Hakeem the dream shake. What do we think about this, guys?
Not just on anybody.
This is a nice play.
On Boban.
Who had killed the Hornets.
Yeah.
And Boban's going to make an appearance later in this show, by the way. But it's just such a nice play there by Hibbert. Didn't know he had the quickness and the moves there.
But you know who does know he had the quickness and the moves for that?
Who's that?
Steve Clifford. He has raved about Roy's ability to do many things. I haven't seen all those things just yet. You guys might have. But I guess we'll give Clifford, he gets 2 claps for that also.
I thought you might be going with Christian Wood there with the shimmy.
Oh, yeah, he had
The
his own little...
post move
That was
shimmy.
nice,
Can I do
though.
mine?
Now, where do you rank that? Kemba's shimmy, Christian Wood's shimmy.
I like Woods, though. It was real sneaky.
Well, Woods was subtle, but
It was kind of out of
Kemba's-
the shadows.
Right, it was out of the shadows, but I think you got to give it to Kemba just for the boldness of the shimmy.
It was.
Let us know what you think. Christian Wood shimmy versus Kemba Walker shimmy. We want to know what you think on
The better shimmy.
YouTube.com. All right, Justin, I've done it. I've pulled the rabbit out of the hat. I have your step back 3 audio. What do we have here for your step back 3?
I don't even know if I want to say what Marco is saying. I think.
You kind. Well, I can play it, but just tell us what we're about to hear.
Well, basically, we do things wrong in life, and you usually say, okay, things happen, and we know how to correct those things. And sadly, Marco had to be the one to say it at this time, but I've been hearing this all season, and I tried to have some positivity coming into this, but this is more of, we say the right things, but get on the court, and I don't see any change.
Here's what Marco said at practice in Houston.
In these last couple games, Detroit and San Antonio, we play good part of the game, but we got all the time, especially when we lost games, 2, 3, 4 minutes that we don't play well. We don't run back on defense. We got a couple turnovers, and we don't talk on defense. So that's the problem. We know that.
So let's break this down. They don't talk on defense. They don't run back on defense, and they know that that's the problem. So I know a lot of Hornets fans listen to that and go, okay, they know it's a problem. Steve Clifford knows it's a problem. Why does it continue to happen?
That's the big question, right? I mean, right, Justin? I mean, that's the frustration you're seeing from Clifford. You're seeing that from him after the most recent game. You're seeing that from him after all these losses that they're letting slip away. When he talks about physicality and toughness, I mean, the toughness part of it is a mental thing too. And when you're not running back, when you're not doing those defensive principles that they preach and they know and that he's trying to drill into them, I mean, you said it before. It feels like there's some disconnect. It's something is not sticking with them night in and night out.
Toughness. Last night, you know what I saw when it comes to toughness? I saw Alabama go down the field and score a touchdown. Many thinks the game is over. Deshaun Watson goes out there, poised, takes them up the field. That's toughness. When you need to seal the deal or close it out or rally, there's confidence there, and you do the things necessary to get over that hump.
The starting unit has toughness because we've seen Kemba Walker drag this team, into a comeback. So he has the toughness necessary to bring the team back.
He's tougher than a Tasmanian devil.
Yeah, exactly.
So true.
But it's the second unit that's lacking, I think, that guy who can really rally the troops. And even when they play MKG with them, it's just not really translating that toughness, that ability to keep them at bay. So we'll continue to talk about this. And we've got a question of the show for this week. Each week we ask you our question of the show. Send us your response on Twitter at Locked On Hornets, and it will pop up on the screen next to us. Well, not this week, but maybe next week. But we will read it on the show. If you're watching live on YouTube or Facebook, just leave it in the comments, and we're going to get to those later in the show. This week's question is, are Kemba's all-star hopes slipping away? Isaiah Thomas, John Wall, Kyle Lowry, all having great months. Could Kemba's all-star hopes be farther away than maybe most people think? All right, let's get to our guest for this evening on the Locked On Hornets hotline. Our friend, former regular on the show. We used to do Nick's picks, but Nick's a little busy for us, I think, lately.
He's got stuff going on.
That's right. He's got stuff going on. I finally got to meet him in person, so we'll talk about that too. On the line, Nick Denning. Nick, how are you, my friend?
Hey, I'm doing well.
We got to get you back on more often, Nick. We got to do Nick's picks. I think the gambling community was depending on our expert choices.
Yeah, I was making all these picks each week, just waiting for that phone call, and then nothing came. And then, so it all went to waste.
All right. Nick, we got you on today because you just wrote a great article for OutTheHive.com titled, "The Hornets Are Better Than This." My question, the first question to you is, are they?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, it's what really stuck to me about kind of wanting to write this was, I just felt that there have been so many opportunities this season where the Hornets have looked like the better team throughout the game, and then at the end somehow they're on the losing end, and I'm thinking, what's going on here? Why aren't we putting together complete games and whatnot? really what it's coming down to is a lack of consistency, particularly on the defensive end, and it's costing them some games that really they should have won.
Yeah, do you think that it's I was talking to Mark Pascal on 94.3 The Game this morning, and he was a little disenchanted with the team right now, even though they still have a winning record, 20-18. They're outpacing last season's pace at 18-20. And I see other fans on Twitter and different things basically just thinking that maybe this team really doesn't even have enough to make the playoffs. Is that fair at this point in the season?
It's not. I wouldn't. I mean, it's understandable. I still think this is very much a playoff team. I think that a lot of the teams in the East currently that are up and down the standings, even out of the playoffs, are good enough. It just shows like you just can't they have to be more consistent. They just and I think I kind of mentioned this in the article. We kind of expect a little bit more this year. After last season, after winning 48 games, we're not obviously asking for a championship. I don't even know if many of us are looking for a Eastern Conference championship. But just to see progression, to feel like the team is making some improvements off of last season. And, we saw that earlier in the season. But right now, I just feel like we're taking a few steps back.
Yeah, there have been some changes with this team, and we knew they were coming because, you revamp an entire bench unit, and there are going to be some changes with any team. But we heard a lot in the offseason about how the offense might not be as effective as it was last season, and that really hasn't been the case. But the surprising part has been how the offense has shifted a little bit. It's playing really well right now despite the three-point shooting being down. What's going on there?
Yeah, that's interesting. So we obviously lost some pretty good perimeter players, Jeremy Lin and Courtney Lee. And then after, along with that, we've had other players, Marvin Williams, Frank Kaminsky. They're not shooting nearly as well as they were from the three-point line last year. So they've changed it, to attacking the hoop a little bit more. They're scoring obviously more two-pointers. They're getting to the line more. And what's a little bit surprising is that they're actually averaging about three more points a game than they were last season. They're averaging 105.2 points per game this season versus 102.4. He doesn't look as pretty, but it actually right now is and a lot of their shooting percentages aside from the 3-point shooting are actually a little bit better than they were a season ago. So it has improved in some regards.
Yeah, I just think that they are moving the ball in a similar way that they moved the ball last season. It's just a little more downhill, and it's about where certain players are comfortable in moving the ball when they start to get aggressive. So Nick Batum has been more inclined to take a few steps in, back a guy down, or shoot over the top. Jeremy Lamb, the same thing. We've seen the same thing out of him. He's been less inclined to spot up and take a three-pointer and more inclined to come off a screen and just take 2 steps inside and get that mid-range look. And so the offense has contracted a little bit, but the effectiveness in the mid-range has kept this offense more than afloat. They've been extremely effective. But of course, Nick, we know the defense has been an issue. Are there one or two guys that you see on this roster right now and you say, man, if they could just really lock in defensively, this team could turn things around?
Yeah, I mean, we've kind of had, there's been discussions about MKG seems to not be as, dominant as we've kind of seen him to, we've seen in the past. It's kind of hard to judge on an individual basis. Obviously, we'd like Frank Kaminsky to do better, but we kind of understand that at this point, we just love to see his offense improve. I feel like just as a team, they're really not defending as well as they could be, particularly from the perimeter. And I know that Clifford doesn't preach that. I know that's not an emphasis. But they're allowing – teams are making 10.5 three-pointers a game, which is, I think, third worst or the third most in the league. They're attempting a ton, and they're averaging about 31.7 points per game just from beyond the arc. And I just feel like that's just – that's too much for a team that's, prides itself on being defense first, that wants to be a top 10 defensive team. It's fine if you're defending the paint, which they are, and they're continuing doing that well. But, it's becoming a trend now where even bad 3-point shooting teams are starting to shoot well against them.
Yeah, because I mean, you give NBA players wide open threes, right, Nick? And a lot of these looks are really good looks. Even guys that supposedly can't shoot are going to be able to knock down a few. And we've seen it time and again. Some guys off the bench for whatever team the Hornets are playing gets hot, hits a few threes, and that can be the story of the game. So I mean, do you think it's something that they need to, because like you said, the offense is not the problem. How do they figure this out on defense? I mean, is it even something they can correct at this point?
I mean, I hopefully they can correct it. I don't have the answer there necessarily, the exact answer.
Why not,
Nick? Come on, that's why you're here.
It's like, I mean, the
it's
rankings
a tough situation, Nick, because
I don't think Clifford has the answer. I mean,
because I think we're all maybe we're all in agreement. We could disagree about this. This is a democracy. This is the United States of America. But I just think I look at this roster and I go, I don't think that the players there's not really the players on that second unit to play the kind of defense they're playing now and keep teams from shooting the 3-pointer well. We'll find out tonight when they play the Rockets. Because the Rockets are the most effective team at shooting the 3-pointer, including, that James Harden, out of the top 6 players on this Rockets team in terms of minutes played, that James Harden is their worst 3-point shooter. That's why he shouldn't be MVP. That's all I'm saying, Justin. He's not even he's the 6th best 3-point shooter on his team.
You don't mean that, even though the numbers say that. You know that's going to change. Phase or stays?
No,
phase, baby. Phase.
So, Nick, should there be an adjustment defensively to get more aggressive at the 3-point line? Will there have to be if they can't make a trade?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. And I know that's, I know Clifford has his principles. He likes to stick to those things. And I mean, it's remarkable that he's emphasized, to this point, I mean, this is his 4th season now, as the NBA has become more and more of a 3-point shooting league, and he's continued to, emphasize, defending the paint, that they've managed to, be fairly, comparable from the 3-point line. Obviously, that's not the case this year. So, yeah, I mean, some adjustments are going to have to be made. Maybe that's, even if Clifford, doesn't say anything specifically, I mean, if it just comes down to the players saying, like, you know what, I'm not going to let this guy make 3 after 3 after 3 on me. I mean, watching Brooklyn last month, this is arguably at the time, I think they were 2nd worst 3-point shooting team in the league, and they made 15 of 31 against us. I mean, guys that had just no business making multiple threes had big nights. So that has to just sting when that's happening over and over again.
And I think it's a personal pride thing. I think some players are going to have to look at their individual matchups and say, I'm not going to let this guy get into me early. That's what's happening. I mean, these players are getting in grooves early. We've seen it time and time again, whether that means early in the game or in Davis Bertans' case, when they played the Spurs, just early in his time in the game. I mean, he doesn't come into the game until late and starts to get hot. So, yeah, I think it's a personal pride thing that some of these guys, like Marco Bellinelli, like Ramon Sessions, are going to have to, and Frank Kaminsky as well, are going to have to gut this thing out and figure something out. I just think it's interesting that we saw 2 seasons ago, we knew Clifford wanted to shoot 3-pointers. He had a history of coaching under guys that like to play 4 out and 1 in. But he looked at his roster and said, okay, offensively, I don't have the players I need to play 4 out, 1 in. So I'm going to adjust that strategy somewhat. And yet defensively, I don't see that happening. And I wonder if it's just a defensive-minded coach just not going to let his philosophy go until he absolutely has to. And they're 20-18 right now. I just want to say that. And the overall defensive rating for the season has been, middle of the pack. But I think at some point you've got to let go and say, okay, I don't have the guys that can close out from as far back as I'm putting them to defend the paint. Something has to change. But I don't know when that. I don't know when that. I think they have to. And this sounds terrible, but I think they have to get to that sort of losing record point where it's like, oh gosh, there absolutely is a chance of missing the playoffs. Nick, want to get you out of here. Thanks so much for your time. I want to do a special edition of Nick's Picks while we do have you. And this one's going to involve, I'm going to give you a list of teams here, and I want to know, in your opinion and why, will these teams finish above the Charlotte Hornets in the Eastern Conference? So these are 3 Eastern Conference possible contenders. Will they finish above the Charlotte Hornets, and why? We're going to start with a very interesting team, the Milwaukee Bucks. They're sitting around 500 right now. Giannis Antetokounmpo is just having a year. Jabari Parker is finally coming on. Giannis is getting MVP talk along with your man James Harden and Russell Westbrook. Do you see the Bucks making a run and finishing above the Charlotte Hornets?
I think they're primed to make the playoffs. I don't think they'll finish above Charlotte. I love what Giannis is doing. I love what Jabari is doing, but I still feel like they're figuring some things out. I watched the first half of their game against New York, where they just looked like just unbelievably dominant team. This was the one in Milwaukee a few nights ago, and they ended up blowing that game in the fourth quarter. Saw a stat from Frank Madden where he said that that recently, this recent stretch of games, they've been one of the top 10 offensive teams in the league. Except in sort of like those clutch fourth quarter situations where they're ranking dead last. So they're still figuring some things out. And I feel like the Hornets, I think in this case, veterans, which the Hornets have more of, versus that young up and coming talent still trying to figure out how to win over an 82 game season. I think I'll take the Hornets over the youth in Milwaukee at this point.
All right, the Indiana Pacers just leapt over the Charlotte Hornets, and they've won several games, but they've got some issues, I think, keeping Paul George happy. Do the Indiana Pacers finish above the Charlotte Hornets in the East?
I don't think they finish above them either. I think Charlotte seems to have their number in recent games. Stretching back to last season, like you said, Paul George is not happy with the way things are going. There seems to be some rumblings of maybe some kind of internal things. I don't like some of the pieces they have there either. So I'm still not going to, even though they are playing better, I'm still going to give the Hornets the advantage.
And finally, this is a team that we thought could be on the brink of a fire sale when they moved Kyle Korver to the Cleveland Cavaliers. The Atlanta Hawks, they are surging. Will they finish above the Charlotte Hornets?
At this point, I'll have to say that they are. Like you said. Yeah, I mean, and I think they're playing, like you said, they're playing much better. They did look like they're about to, they already they traded Korver. They look like they're about to, trade Millsap, and now they're not. They're backtracking on that. They just told him that he's not going to get traded at the deadline. I think they're, just the way that they're playing right now, and the way that Charlotte's playing right now, I really can't justify Charlotte, finishing above them. Things can obviously change, but they're the better team right now.
All right, Nick Denning, you can follow him on Twitter at Nick Denning, and of course you can read him on @thehive.com. His latest article, what was the title of that article again?
The Hornets are better than this.
You're better than this. You're better than this, Hornets.
Nick, love having you on as always. Thanks, man.
Thank you, guys.
Man, that Atlanta thing is so weird.
Well, it's featured in one of our things coming up.
Okay, well then I'll save it. Let's save it.
What do you think? Hawks, Pacers, Bucks. I'm actually predicting the Pacers to finish above the Hornets because I think Paul George. I'm serious. I think Paul George figures this thing out. It's going to be comfortable in Indiana. I think they get things figured out. But I don't like the Hawks or the Bucks. I just think I'm going to go with the superstar, and I don't think Giannis is quite.
No,
he's got one next year.
Easy.
Next year. But right now, I think Paul George carries the Pacers.
I think they're all going to be there. It's going to be like this 1 or 2 game thing like we saw last year. You know what I mean? I mean, it's going to be that close, I think, just where all these teams are. But the Hornets have to keep up. I mean, that's the big thing. They got out to that big lead. They gave them a little cushion. They've all but lost that up to this point. As Nick pointed out, though, in his piece, they tend to get going this time of year. So they'll need to do that again.
All right, let's go out to this YouTube chat right now. Jacob saying, Cody is out tonight. Clutch his chest. Yeah, that's good. That doesn't make it any easier because you need that quickness, because the Rockets are great at penetrating, and and that's how they find a lot of their 3-point shots. And so when you don't have somebody that can stop and help and recover, it makes it even more difficult to contain what they do. And they can put 5 players on the court that can shoot 3-pointers, so always tough. Mouthman saying Pacers and Hawks above us unless a change is made. So people, they want the change. Everybody's just this has been a change election.
Hey, people are not happy.
Hey, I've been speaking of elections, speaking of politics, I've been watching the Senate confirmation hearings.
Oh,
I have an idea.
Doug.
Those
I've
things
got
are
an
aggressive.
idea. I want to toss this idea out to you. Okay, so listen, it's the circle of life. Eventually, the Charlotte Hornets, some years from now, will be looking for a new general manager. It's just, it happens, and whether it's 5 years from now or 25 years from now, it's going to happen, okay? We can all agree on that, right?
I'm going to disagree with you on that one, Doug.
Whatever.
They'll never look for another one again.
All right. Anyway, so I think they should do a general manager confirmation hearing. Get a random assortment of a season.
Just fire questions at the
Well, yeah,
or girl.
with season ticket holders, and they could break into groups of two parties: Win Now or Trust the Process Party, and they just grill the general manager like, "What is your opinion on European immigration, sir? Do we draft and stash European immigrant? Do we break? Come on, stay with me here." Do we bring second round picks, sir? Answer the question.
That would be great.
Isn't that what Twitter is? I mean, really.
But they actually have to hear
okay,
it.
we can run exactly. We don't have to run this
That would be
physically with people
great.
there. We can run this. It'll be like a Reddit AMA or something. And the new general manager candidate will have to be confirmed by
Anything is possible, Doug. Anything is
There'd be some
possible.
GMs up there sweating bullets.
All right, let's get to the question of the show.
Always question with the Q. Questions help us learn things new. Question marks are very cool, especially when you're in school. Always question when you try. You'll find who, what, where, when, why. Question marks are very fun. Let's break them down now one by one.
All right, question of the show. Very interesting question of the show this week. Is Kemba Walker in danger of missing the All-Star game? David, as our resident All-Star expert here on the show, we got the update a few days ago on where he was in the fan vote, and we know that the fan vote was not going to carry him home, but now there are questions whether or not the player media vote could get him in. Break it down for us.
Well, I think so, yeah. Let's look at those results, right? So right now you have Kyrie Irving and Dwayne Wade. And Dwayne Wade, I think, is the key name that we want to focus on here because that's the guy we highlighted a couple weeks ago as someone who could push Kemba Walker out of the running for being on the team at all. Because Dwayne Wade, I don't think, is going to get the player and the coach's vote, right? If he gets the fan vote, is that going to be enough to get him into the All-Star game? That's the interesting thing about this new system. So we're looking at this in the West with Zaza Pachulia, right? Justin, do you have thoughts?
Whoa. Are you okay?
Say
something.
Yeah. The fact that man has that many votes.
But here's what the NBA did, right? They got out in front of it. Like we talked about a couple weeks ago. They didn't want what happened in the NHL to happen in the NBA. So they've effectively nullified, to some degree, this fan vote. Because what happens now is fans get 50% of the votes, media 25%, player 25%. And they do the calculation. So say, Doug, you give a vote for Zaza. Justin gives a vote for Zaza. And I represent the players or the fans, right? Media, players. So my vote would count twice, and your vote would count once each. So they total that up and average it all out. I mean, basically.
But here's the thing: there are less players, obviously, than the fan. I mean, there were like 50 or hundreds of thousands of votes for.
Right, but
Kyrie.
it doesn't matter the number of fan votes that he gets, right? So he gets
but
a
no,
number two slot from the fans.
I understand that,
right.
but what I'm saying is, okay, so yes, Kyrie gets one
the
from the
number
fan
one
vote.
slot.
Right, but I'm saying there are less players, so I feel like their votes would count. I'm no mathematician. I'm just saying.
So they total it up by slot.
Oh, I see.
So the fan slot is worth one. So he'd get 1 and 1 for being voted number one from the fans.
So why is this making it harder for Kemba Walker, do you think, at this point?
Why is it making it harder for Kemba Walker?
Yeah.
I'm saying it could help Kemba Walker because I
okay.
think when the media and players come in, that could level out some of that Dwayne Wade vote and push up one of the Raptors or like an Isaiah Thomas to move into the starting spot because those guys are going to get in anyway, right? And so if Wade gets knocked out, that leaves a spot for someone like Kemba. Let's just be honest, it leaves a spot for Kemba because I think, as we talked about last week or last time we visited this, right? You got Isaiah Thomas, Kyle Lowry, John Wall, who initially I was like, I don't think he's going to make it, but his numbers are too good and his name is too good and he's been there too many times. And now the Wizards are right there with the rest of these teams. And then you have Isaiah Thomas and Kemba. That's 5, right? That's 5 point guards.
Right now
that's going to be tough.
Right now in December and then into January, these numbers don't change all that much. Isaiah Thomas averaging 30 points, 6 assists, and now in January almost 4 rebounds, only 2.5 in December. But I mean, 30-6.
Right. So
that's hard to argue against.
Isaiah's getting in. He jumps out and averaging 28 points a game. The rest of the scoring is relatively even. 23 for Wall and Kemba, 23 for Lowry, and 24 for Kyrie. Right.
Dwayne Wade's kind of the bubble buster, in NCAA tournament talk when a team, a mid-major team, goes up and wins a conference tournament or something that wasn't expected to. That's Dwayne Wade at this point, because if he gets in and he's a starter, it's got to push somebody down.
And that's what you want to look for if you're a Hornets fan, if you're a Kemba fan. You want to see when these second results come in. I think the second fan results come in this week, I believe, and the media and the player results. But that's what you want to see: Dwayne Wade get knocked out of one of those two slots.
Justin, sometimes when players get snubbed, it can help that player or elevate that team. Is that something you think that Kemba would respond well to, getting snubbed for an All-Star game again, second straight year? Do you think that would elevate his game somewhat? Because the reason I ask this is because Kemba Walker has been vocal about, sometimes players are like, I don't care, whatever, All-Star game, great. But Kemba Walker's been vocal about how, he would like to be recognized in that way. He's not done it in an overt way, but it's, would a snub affect him positively or negatively?
I think it would. I don't know if it'd be anything drastic, but I think from his end, Kemba not even making the All-Star game wouldn't even be a snub to him. It'd be to the team because he's having a really good year, and they've been dropping the ball. And I think them getting snubbed, I think he would take a little bit more onus vocally to be like, okay, I want to make the All-Star game. It didn't happen. But the reason why that didn't happen is because my team has been coming up short. And I think Clifford would definitely like that because Clifford has mentioned Kemba's defense multiple times. So if there is any snub, I think Clifford would love for that snub to happen and help him defensively and somewhat motivate the team. Because if the team was winning, if they were still 1, 2, 3, or 4, I think he'd have a super strong team.
Do you buy into this snub magic?
No. I mean, I think if they can get back to 4, right? If they can get back to 4, the coaches are going to have to put him in my opinion.
I agree.
So that's the other thing to remember. Once all this voting done, that's just 2 spots. You still got 2 bench spots for guards and then 2 wild cards, right, that the coaches can fill.
Wild card.
Now, as loaded as this position is in the East, it makes sense to me to overload these wild cards or whatever with as many point guards as you can. If they do that, then Kemba can still have a chance of getting in. But, I mean, it's crazy to be here after the start of the season he had when everyone was talking about him getting in.
Say wild card again.
And use that wild card.
Wild card.
And, and now he's kind of on the bubble because his play hasn't dropped off that much.
And I got to mention our man Zach out here in the studio dropping some great tweets online right now on at Locked On Hornets on Twitter, asking questions. Our question of the show, he put that on Twitter, and we got a response here from our friend Mullins Mafia on this question of the show. He said, a win while 2 other starters are out on the road versus the Rockets, a good team, a top 4 team in the league, would be a good way to change that narrative, to get that narrative moving in the right direction. So this is a pivotal game tonight, tipping off at 8 o'clock in Houston.
Are we going to visit the Tony Allen video in this show? Because we just want to mention that. I mean, I really think this player and media vote, it really could be interesting. I mean, you never know how this is going to go. It's the first time they've ever done it. A lot of guys play against improve over these last 2 years. And a lot of the media has seen his shooting percentage skyrocket and jump over the past 2 years. And there's a lot of appreciation for that.
That's right. And if Kemba Walker's going to get in, he's going to need help from coaches. He's going to need help from media and his fellow NBA players. He's got at least 1 vote locked up from the great Tony Allen, shooting guard for the Memphis Grizzlies, who streamed his ballot process live on his Periscope. This is amazing footage here. Enjoy. All right, we'll try to. We're gonna get that. We're gonna get that video up for you. It's not playing. No, I don't think it's playing either. All right, let's.
It was so good.
It was so good.
We gotta find it. We'll tweet it out.
Well, no, I can. Well, let's figure this out because
we can do anything we want.
I think Tony Allen's voting for Kemba holds some weight because Tony Allen was known for one thing and one thing only.
Is this playing? No. Gosh, sorry. All right. Well, technical difficulties. We'll tweet it out.
It happens.
But anyway, Tony Allen.
Yeah, explain the video. This will be good.
Well,
this will be
Tony
at least
Allen's
be good
fantastic.
for our this will be at least be good for our listeners on the podcast.
This is one of those. This is why social media was invented type videos. I mean, if you enjoy Tony Allen, you'll enjoy this video. He's going through making his All-Star selections. Not sure which conference at the start. Not sure what rules he has to follow at the start. I'm not making fun of him. Just saying, like, there's a lot of, it's just they're correct and they're kind of guiding him along the way. He's calling out certain players by name that should not, that will not garner any.
All right, can we try this one more time?
Hey, third
I know the audio. Yeah, the video came up, but for some reason, I'm going to try this one more time with the permission of our producer, Captain Kurt. All right, just everyone hold hands. Hold hands.
Right,
let's
do it.
All right, here we go.
All right.
Hold on, bro. Hold on. Let me get this clear. All right, where I go? All right, hold on. How you do it? Scroll down.
Yep. So you have 2 backcourt players.
Gerald Henderson. Matthew Dellavedova. Man. Jared Bayless. Hold on, man. Is this real? So anybody name could be on here?
This is just Eastern Conference. 2 backcourt players. Tell him about Call of Duty.
Hold on. Just hold on. Yeah, find out. Yeah, in a minute, cuz we live.
We live.
What might come? Yeah.
This is Eastern Conference.
Oh, man, I ain't voting. Do I got to vote East Conference? All right, I got one. Kemba Walker.
There you go. Like that.
Yeah, there we go. So Kemba Walker gets the vote from Tony Allen.
So look, as much as you count out the fan vote right now, who knows what could happen. I mean, is it out of the question that he's a starter? No, I don't think. I mean, just mathematically, right? I mean, it's going to be tough.
Yeah, I got to.
It might be. I haven't done the math.
Hold on,
so
I got to pull
it is.
up his full ballot. Okay, so his Eastern Conference picks were Kemba Walker, Mo Williams, Luke Babbitt.
I don't feel as good about this video right now.
Oh.
No, Michael Beasley, Andre Drummond, and then in the Western Conference, of course, he went all Memphis.
Wait.
So, but this brings up a good point, okay? Because players were criticizing the addition of the media to select all-stars.
Right.
And Tony Allen can't be alone in making, first of all, completely biased player picks for his own team. But then, and
So-
again, this
so
is
it
where
might not
this
matter
is.
at all.
Well, that's what I'm saying. This is where less players matters, in my opinion, because there's less balance. There's less of a balancing effect. In the whatever selection ends up being their selection will be their selection, whatever that means.
Well, look,
but I'm
so in
saying,
this
like,
case, right?
there aren't a ton of players relative to fans that can counteract his ballot right here of all Memphis Grizzlies. And apart from that, we give this responsibility to the players, and then they, well, at least Tony Allen does silly stuff like this.
Well, he didn't vote for Dwayne Wade.
Yeah.
Yeah.
LeBron
Who knows?
James.
I mean, who knows? I think the media, you probably won't have a ballot that looks like this, but and I think most of the players. Who knows?
The Luke Babbitt
I don't know,
pick is.
actually.
I
Who
think
knows?
I like that he selected Kemba Walker first, and that the Hornets took
I would
care
have
of the
liked to have
Grizzlies this
heard
season.
I'd like to have heard the accompanying commentary for the rest of the
Go
choices.
watch it. It's all over the internet,
Okay.
so just go check the video out. But I think that Tony Allen respects Kemba Walker a lot, and I think that's why he made that pick. Now, don't ask me about the other picks.
Because we was on a roll.
I mean, Drummond's not. That's legit.
It's an okay pick, but I'm just saying it's crazy
And
that
Mo
they.
Williams.
Beasley is
I was like, Mo Williams? That's how I knew it was a joke, man. We was out here rolling, like, man, getting respect from Tony Allen because
Well.
he definitely been on a few ends of those in and outs.
Yeah.
And then they're like, wait a minute, this is who he voted for? It's all right,
So
Tony.
it's going to be tougher than we once thought, for sure.
I honestly thought you were going to come out here and say that Kemba Walker was in danger, but you've given me positivity about this. that
I mean, the
didn't- that I didn't
danger
have.
is there.
The beard has changed you,
The
David.
danger is there. I just feel like.
Would you ever consider coloring your beard?
No.
You're just going. I respect that, man.
No.
I totally
Maybe no.
respect it. I mean, you look like you're 100 years old, but I totally respect.
I feel it sometimes, Doug. Thank you. In my heart and soul.
You kind of have a little Brett Favre going on a little bit.
Oh my God.
Would you ever color your patch?
No chance.
I'm wearing copper socks as well. Have you guys seen this?
What is it? What copper socks?
You seen the Brett Favre commercial?
Brett Favre.
Oh,
Yeah.
Or his beard. What's his other one? His beard. He does some grooming type of grooming.
Is it?
I'm not a Brett Favre commercial aficionado.
I've seen it. It's just not registered right now. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Anyway, but back to your point, Doug. It's not looking as good as it was, but really, when you factor in all the players in there, it should have been this way the whole time. Because even like I said, I was out on Wall. You were saying there's no way he's getting left out. He does average 4.5 turnovers a game for Wall. I mean, that's kind of a lot for a point guard. But I think name recognition and Wall and the people know that he's an all-star caliber player.
I just can't believe that some people thought that adding players to this would lend some legitimacy or go against the fans or balance the fan vote, because players. I don't think they really take, especially players that have no chance of getting into the All-Star game, take the All-Star festivities that seriously.
Yeah, but it will, because like Zaza is not making the All-Star game. There's no way the players in the media are going to have him ranked anywhere from 1 to 20, right? So it does. Even if he's second with the fans, they're going to balance that out.
If they let now, Robin Lopez would have no shot if they let mascots vote. He'd have zero shot.
That's not
totally counteract.
I came across something real quick before we transition.
Sure.
We've talked a lot about Kemba making the All-Star team.
We have.
In the All-Star game. And I've come across, I saw some screenshots that people were spelling his name wrong.
Yeah.
So this is another thing they announced because with like Giannis and even with somebody like Lowry, tricky last name.
Lowry, Lowry.
They're counting these little spelling errors.
They say that.
What were the misspellings of Kemba?
Kimba.
Kim. Yeah.
I was like, Charlotte. Well, I don't know if these were people. Well, it couldn't have been people from Charlotte.
Wild card.
But I was like,
let's go to YouTube.
I think the moral of the story is Hornets fans go vote Kemba and don't vote Wade.
Kemba Ke or Kemba Ki. Apparently it doesn't matter, but it totally does. I don't think that they're counting. I can't believe that. All right, go to
conspiracy.
Make sure to comment. Give us your thoughts on YouTube.com right now. We've got one from Civ Rock saying, "What do you guys think of Archie Goodwin or Xavier Munford, a couple of Greensboro Swarm D-League affiliate players as potential fillers?" No, they're not going to make the All-Star game for the 15th roster spot if Cho can't pull together another magical trade.
That's not going to move the needle.
Yeah, it won't do much. Yeah.
Do you know what Archie Goodwin is? He's a product of a kid that should have stayed in school.
I think they would. Well,
I mean, not that won't happen, right? Not that they won't pull somebody up, but I think they'll exhaust, like you said.
Well, they still have the 10-day option too, the 10-day contract option, so they could go out and maybe find more of a veteran. And again, Steve Clifford, he's more focused on veterans, and so yeah, I think Archie Goodwin and Xavier Munford are safe in Greensboro. They don't have to move out quite yet. Let's see. Darrell Arthur is a suggestion from Daniel. Play solid defense and shooting the 3-ball really well this year. Under the radar trade that fits the Cho mold. This is what we need. We need guys out there on the ground digging up these valuable assets. Darrell Arthur could be an interesting. It's going to be one of these guys that is having
somebody like that.
Having it under the radar kind of year.
Right.
No, it's not going to be Paul Millsap. You see the guy in Toronto, the fan, and they were like doing a guess the player's hair contest, and so they would have Toronto players' hairs, and the person would have to guess for a free thing, and the guy was like Paul Millsap.
What? That's embarrassing.
That's a good fan. He's just trying to advocate for his guy, trying to get the Raptors one more player. All right, so that's one weird thing that happened in an NBA game, and weird things are happening all over the place in the NBA. So we've got a new segment here on Locked On Hornets. We're calling it, "The hell is that?"
What the hell is that?
All right, we're going to start in Atlanta. We'll see. Let's see how well I got a new system for changing out the video here. We're going to start in Atlanta. Kyle Korver traded to the Cavaliers for a Mike Dunleavy and a pick. So, one of the first, the only trade in this NBA season. But this one didn't happen as smoothly as probably people wanted it to. Mike Dunleavy did not report to the Atlanta Hawks for his physical to finalize this trade because he wanted to move to a contender. Adrian Wojnarowski on Yahoo and on Twitter reporting that after a conversation with Atlanta Hawks coach Mike Budenholzer, he will now report to the Atlanta Hawks and has, quote, made peace with, unquote, joining Atlanta. So, David, we'll start with you.
What the H?
What the H is? What's up with that?
For Atlanta, it's weird because, okay, if you're going to sign Dwight Howard, if you're going to make a move for this season, why are you trading Kyle Korver, right? And if you're going to trade Kyle Korver and then you're sale, what are you doing? I mean, it doesn't make much sense to me. I'm still not convinced that they're not going to move Paul Millsap. I don't know about you guys. I mean, I feel like we've heard this before.
Well, they said they weren't going to do it, David, and that is a binding verbal contract.
You have a point. You have a point, Doug.
No, of course they can still move Paul Millsap, and they may be pulling him back in order to just entice people further.
And so it's also not like Kyle Korver is, I mean, he's a good shooter. It wasn't working out there for him as of late. I think he's going to be great on the Cavs, but it's not like not having Korver is going to send their season into a tailspin by itself, right?
No, but Kyle Korver was a little bit on the downslope. I think people are overestimating the impact that he'll have in Cleveland.
Well, he's playing with LeBron in Cleveland, though. I mean, all he's got to do is spot up.
I think he's going to be big.
All he had to do was spot up in Atlanta. He's not.
He was running.
If you look at the 3-point shooting percentage from those guys in Cleveland off of passes from LeBron,
he still has to take the shot. Like, it's not like they're going. He's not going to become a great 3-point shooter again through osmosis. Like, he still has to take the 3-point shot. Here's what I want to know. Like, if you're Atlanta, you're in a tough spot though, because you went after the big fish and got Dwight Howard and brought him in to put together a top 3 team.
And Millsap's not going to resign there. And they just lost Horford.
He says his heart is in Atlanta.
Well, his heart might be in Atlanta, but really?
He means the show. He just really wants. He loved the fact that they got the Golden Globes. All right, let's go to Detroit. And you guys, Hornets fans, you'll remember this guy right here. He got a training course.
Look at the hands.
Look at this. He got a training course in guarding an inbounds pass with 0.2 seconds left on the clock in double overtime with the game on the line. Check this out. His bench is screaming at him, put up his hands, and you can see he looks, hold on, wait for it here. He's looking over at his team like, what do I do? Okay, I stand here. Okay.
Man.
He looks at his hand. Watch him look at his hand. He's like, okay, I got the hand high enough. Jump. Good boy. Boban, yes. And the reaction after this is pretty great too. Like he reacts like, oh, thank you so much, team. Stan Van Gundy was just screaming at him as well. But
Stan was saying, build
an effing wall. And no, here's the best part of this. How many minutes do you think Boban had before checking into the game with 0.2 seconds left in double overtime? The answer is 0. The answer is 0. The answer is 0.
When was that game?
It was their last game. Oh. I don't know dates. It was their last game.
I don't know these numbers and days. So after he torched the Hornets, he didn't play until he went in to guard the inbounds pass.
No, exactly. And you look at Davis Bertans. I'm telling you, if you're an NBA team, if you're the Houston Rockets right now, play Sam Dekker 30 minutes. You got to just pick a player that the Hornets have no idea is coming, and because that's been the winning ticket.
Dekker and Kaminsky.
Hit me with the drop, buddy. What the hell? If you don't know, that's from one of my favorite SNL sketches of all time with Steve Martin and Bill Murray, season 5.
Is it really, really funny?
It's extremely well. It's it's an off-kilter brand of humor. It's not, it's not Boban Marjanovic jumping up and down like a good boy, but.
Now, if it's dry humor, I love dry humor.
So Atlanta, though, Doug. I mean,
I don't want to talk about that. I want to go to Golden State. This is probably the most interesting one. Steph Curry tried to set this play up. It was a potential game winner or really just game icer for the Golden State Warriors. Stephen Curry, asked to set up this pick and roll. Kevin Durant denies it. Draymond Green, he just pulls up for this 3-point shot. This was a big play. A lot of people talking about this play. Draymond Green, you can see there in the video, not very happy, shaking his head. He's going to get into Durant here, chest to chest, screaming at Durant, set up the pick and roll. Durant said everything was cool after the game, but guys,
I don't know what the hell that is.
I don't either. What the hell is that? David, what's going on in Golden State?
Nothing.
Are the core 4 crumbling?
Oh, yeah, it's all over. Now is the time to pounce.
First round exit, right? The Golden State Warriors are done.
And I love that. That's when I watch the Hornets and they have miscues and things like that, I'm looking for somebody on the roster to do that.
It happens to the best teams.
And my man Draymond didn't even go for the rebound.
Oh, well, you liked what Kevin Durant did there, just taking the shot, being aggressive. You didn't like that.
No.
I can't get a beat on where you are right now. So you didn't like what Durant did, but you also didn't like what who in that play did you like?
No, I loved what Draymond did.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I
getting
love that
into
because
the guy.
he did the wrong thing. It's like, yo, my man, yes, we're catering to you, but no, we're running this play. And he was holding KD accountable. I'm looking for somebody on this roster in Charlotte to do that when somebody doesn't get back on defense or there's a lazy close.
I'll tell you what. Steph Curry comes to Charlotte.
ESPN.
Anyone will set. I'll set a pick and roll for him. I'll run onto the court, take my shirt off, and set up one of these. Set up one of these pick and roll.
What if they
boys.
just? What if they just like
shirt
run
off?
Through you though.
Shirt
are you
off.
Are you gonna be able to hold your
shirt
ground?
be off?
Because I don't want anything to
You
encumber me
ripped
while
it.
I'm setting the pick.
All right.
I'm gonna get arrested anyway. You might as well take your shirt off.
I like that.
You make sports. Center.
Yeah. But on a serious note, would this signal some troubles when we get into the playoffs? You think?
No.
Can they? No. All right. Just across the board, this is going to be okay. I really think that. I think they will get some things figured out, but I think this is when you put 4 guys. There's always going to be something. I think. That's game to game. There's always going to be these moments.
I think this is part of figuring that out, though, right? I mean, this is what this season is about for them. They don't care about winning 73 games again. They don't even probably care about getting the number 1 seed in the West. I mean, they just care about getting to the playoffs with everyone healthy and ripping through the West again, trying to do that. Because, I mean, it's set up for that. The Cavs and the Warriors, throw the Spurs in there if you want to. But, I mean, that's what it's setting up for, right?
Yeah, Draymond's like, yo, I'm not having that. I'm not having that. That's a vocal leader right there. Because KD was thinking, I'm just going to pull up and close this. Like, no. It's not how we do things.
So that was the Memphis game? Is that what that was?
Yep.
That was the Memphis game. So Memphis beat them in Memphis without Mike Conley. That was a high-pressure game, a lot of stuff going on. So,
Draymond said their offense was atrocious.
Jacob's leaving us. He's going to watch the Carolina Hurricanes.
It was a pleasure,
Go
Jacob.
Go for it, Jacob. Peace. Thank you. I like this comment here from Boris. Boris saying, hello, guys. Yeah. Please help. I am a prankster. GF versus BF and crazy things. Need your help. We got our first spam on the chat.
I am also a prankster.
This is where I am prankster. I am prankster too. Hey, let's go out. Hey, real quick, just while we're wrapping this show up, let's go out to the producer cam. Drop us a sweet drop while we got you on the producer cam, my friend.
Tony Parker.
Oh, oui.
Oh man. All right, let's look ahead as we close out this show. Let's look ahead to a couple of the opponents. We won't look to Houston because that's gonna put us way out of date. But let's look at Philadelphia after that. That'll be a nice break for the Hornets. Nice game to get back on track. Unless they somehow pull out this win against Houston, they can't look past this game though, because the Philadelphia is gaining some confidence. They've got a couple of wins. I believe they won 2 out of their last 3. So, this team isn't, they're not coming in on a 6-7 game losing streak. They're going to be looking to win this ball game. What did my man Joel Embiid say? So they got a chance to make the playoffs. Don't sleep on.
Hey, he's trying to make the playoffs.
Don't sleep on the Sixers.
He's trying to make the All-Star team, and he's trying to get that date with Rihanna. I mean, he's got a lot
who
of
does he
stuff
get a
on his
date
plate.
with? That's what I want to know. He gets a date with Rihanna if he makes the All-Star game. Who does he get a date with if he makes the playoffs? I feel like that's an even.
She said All-Star. She didn't say anything about the playoffs.
Who is bigger than Rihanna? Who would be the celebrity step up to Rihanna, you think, if he makes the playoffs?
I mean, she's a super. I mean, the only thing I think that you could go above that is Beyonce, and she's married. So
she's spoken for.
Yeah, and Rihanna's a
real
big deal. So
spoken for, but I'll tell you what, if Philadelphia makes the playoffs, then anything can happen.
Hey.
All right, let's move on to this Boston game. It's close to a must-win game, I think, for the Hornets if they end up dropping this one to the Rockets, because at least as close as you can get to a must-win game before the All-Star break, right? Because right now, that would put them 0-2 against Boston. They would be 0-something against Boston, Toronto, Cleveland, having not beaten any of those teams. Mm-hmm. I don't see that. You know what? I looked at last season's record, though. They didn't beat a lot of good teams before middle of January either.
Right. So this is when they get going. But you're right. They haven't beat Toronto. They haven't beat Cleveland. They haven't beat Boston.
Atlanta's above them now. They've got 2 wins against Atlanta.
Yeah. I mean, what are they still 6-1 in the division, right? So, I mean, their division record is fantastic. They got to get a couple wins against those top three: Cleveland, Boston, Toronto.
In Boston, Isaiah Thomas has been out of this world, and if Kemba goes in there and balls, that helps for votes.
Yeah, I just think honestly, Kemba needs to have an explode. I mean, it feels like a lot to ask him to have more of an offensive explosion, right? But he hasn't had like a 40 point game, right?
Well, and here's the thing: when you look back at last season, this was around the time where you had his 50-point game on MLK Day against Utah. Then he followed it up a couple nights later with a 40-point overtime victory, 40-point game and an overtime victory against Orlando. And then, of course, the next game, or their next victory, they would lose their next one, and then they would win in Sacramento in double overtime, the miracle after midnight. So this was as crucial as it got for the Hornets last season to really keep them afloat while they got some players healthy. They will need that same kind of contribution from Kemba, but also they got a huge contribution from Troy Daniels out of nowhere. We haven't seen yet the player out of nowhere putting up numbers.
Everybody's played so far, right? I mean, who's left?
Everybody, yeah, it would be a more known quantity than last season when Troy Daniels did it. But at the same time, I think we're not seeing a, oh my God, Marco had 25, or oh man, Frank Kaminsky just dropped 25. You know,
a Lammy game.
Frank Kaminsky had 17 in the first half the other night, and they ended up winning that game. And that we haven't seen that.
They're going to have to get more, especially with Nick out. I think it's going to be tough for Kemba to get that 40-point night because everything's going to be focused on him. And Nick does so many things for Kemba. We haven't talked about him at all tonight, but he's still questionable, I guess, day to day. But don't expect him tonight, certainly. So I mean, it's going to be tough, especially if like Patrick Beverly is on Kemba all night and.
He's a pest.
It's going to be a fun game. They're not afraid to guard you at the perimeter. That's for sure.
Pest.
All right, Justin, last word on this Hornets team.
You know, we talked about the Hornets are better than this,
and
I don't think they are.
Oh, wow. Bold statement. Bold statement, folks.
I don't. I'm hoping for things to get better because that makes everything we do much better and people care more, but I really just think this team is what it is.
I think they've got to get healthy. And I think they have to. I think there's still a small move to be made, and I think that there could be a defensive adjustment if that small move is not possible this season. But the one thing I think they shouldn't do is, again, whatever adjustment you make to make that bench defense stronger, it's not going to win you an Eastern Conference title. And I think you have to keep that perspective as a team. That's what I would grill the general manager on in his confirmation hearing.
No.
Keep perspective.
I think Southeast Division, though, is something they could try and go get.
Wait,
and
winning a playoff series.
Well, winning a playoff series, I think, is the main goal.
But are they one piece? Are they one defensive piece on the bench away from winning a playoff series? I think so, but if that move's not available, then don't. What I'm saying is don't give up picks. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, God,
no.
People want that, though. They want to make the big splash, and I think that's the wrong move. All right, as we leave you, it's been a tough week for Hornets fans. They've lost 4 out of their past 5 games, so we want to leave you with something nice, something special, something that I will have to video here. It's this is beautiful. It is a solid 30-plus seconds of MKG hitting jump shots. It is our one last thing as we say goodbye. Thanks for listening to this live edition of Locked On Hornets. Follow us on Twitter at Locked On Hornets. Subscribe to us on iTunes and stay up to date on the Hornets every day. We want to hear from you. Email us your Hornets thoughts, your questions, your comments to buzzbuzz@hivetalklive.com. For the entire Locked On Hornets team, I'm Doug. Go Hornets. Go America. Beat those Rockets. Let's swarm Charlotte.
Coke and Pepsi. Trash is the problem with society. Always gotta find somebody else to take the fall. Never just be you and me.